Welcome to this transit call on Gene Key Gate Hexagram Archetype 39. The Liberator is in transit from July 1st to July 6th. This is the gate of the provocateur, and it's the hexagram of obstruction. In the Gene Keys, this is the frequency band that goes from provocation to liberation, and the human pathway is dynamism. When we're looking at this archetype from an I Ching perspective, we can see that it is in the part of the wheel that has the trigram of mountain on the bottom. In this specific case, we're going to have abysmal water over keeping still mountain. And when we look at those elemental trigrams, they are making up elemental hexagrams. So when we have water over water, that is the same as saying hexagram or Gene Key 29. When we have mountain over mountain, that is the same thing as saying hexagram or Gene Key 52. So we can create a braid through water and mountain, which means that the shadow of provocation is half-hearted stress. The gift of dynamism is commitment to restraint, and the city of liberation is devotion and stillness. When we're looking at this archetype from an astrological perspective, we see that it is in Cancer. Cancer is the fourth sign of the wheel. This also corresponds to the fourth house of the wheel, and the ruler here is the moon. Cancer is cardinal water. It's the surface of the waters that bathe in light and bring forth new life. The archetype of Cancer is the life bringer, the nurturer, the caregiver. It is service to other through the caring waters of unconditional love. When we look at the wheel in terms of quarters, this is the quarter of civilization. All these gates, starting with the Sphinx gate number 2 and going all the way to right before Sphinx gate 7. So the cross of the Sphinx is what divides the wheel in 4 quarters. And here we have purpose fulfilled through form. So if you have any of these Gene Keys, hexagrams, gates as your sun, as your life's work, you are going to have this overarching theme in your life that the purpose is fulfilled through form. The programming partner to 39 is the 38 in Capricorn. So it's on the other side of the wheel. And it's also the mirror opposite in terms of the hexagram. So wherever the 39 has a yin line, we are going to see a yang line in the 38 and vice versa. And here the frequency band is from struggle to honor, and the human pathway is perseverance. And here we're looking at the human design way. So we can see that the 39 is living in the root center. This is a pressure and motor center. It has to do with stress and adrenaline. And here we're looking at the whole channel. So always when we are in the body graph, when we have just a hanging gate, we don't see the whole picture. The hanging gates are always looking for what's on the other side because that's where we can complete a process. So when you look at, for example, what kind of circuitry somebody has, if you say it's an individual, it's a tribal being, it's a collective being, it stems from the channels that are defined. We don't look at gates when we speak about that. So there are people that don't have any channels, they're reflectors, right? So we can't say it's a collective being, it's a tribal being, it's an individual. They are here to sample and reflect everything back to us. So in this case, if you have not only the 39, but also the 55, you're going to have this whole process. Or if you have a hanging 39 and somebody in your life has a hanging 55, this is what you create together. So the channel of emoting, a design of moodiness, when the 39 meets the 55, so connection between the root center and the emotional center. This is a projected channel. And the theme is, the secret to your life is to appreciate the lows as much as you love the highs. When you let go of wanting to control love, you will experience the freedom you seek. Some key words for the liberator: impulse, revival, and abundance. And some keywords for the 55, creativity, moods, and passion. And when we look at the whole entire channel from an integral human design perspective, we can see that the lower frequency is emptiness, the feeling of emptiness, like something is missing. That's the shadow. And then the gift frequency is romance, and the highest frequency is true love. And here we're looking at the circuitry. So like I said before, channels are part of circuitry. So the channel of emoting is part of the individual circuitry. And this is what we call the knowing circuit. The keynote for the individual circuitry is empowerment. The format energy is the pulse or the mutation. That's what comes here from the connection between the root and the sacral in the 360 channel. And the sense here is hearing or acoustic. So it's this inner hearing. I know I'm inspired and it's moving, right? But there's also this complete nothingness where we speak about the individual circuitry as melancholy, because sometimes it pulses, sometimes it mutates, sometimes it's creative, and sometimes there's nothing. So exactly like we saw in the theme before, is you want to be able to love all of it, the highs, the low, the void, the pulse, all of it. That's true liberation when you don't necessarily have a preference. And I'm bringing in, as I have before, another system. So here we have Sergio Arboleda's way of looking at the I Ching through the translation of the elements, like we spoke about the elemental trigrams, but also a color coding of astrology. So what he's doing is that he's looking at the thunder trigram and he's saying that's Aries. He's looking at the lake trigram and he's saying that's Taurus. He's looking at the fire trigram. He says that's Gemini. He's looking at the earth trigram and saying that's Cancer. And he is looking at the heaven trigram and saying that's Leo. He's looking at the wind trigram and saying that's Virgo. He's looking at the mountain trigram and saying that's Libra. And he's looking at the water trigram and saying that is Scorpio. So you have a direct translation with a trigram. So for any single gate in the I Ching, you can say that it's a combination of two astrological signs through his way of seeing it. So going to the 39, which, like we said, is water and mountain, we could also say from his perspective that the 39 is a combination of Scorpio and Libra. So what does that mean? How can we translate that? Well, the way that he's looking at it, to start with just the image, is that he's looking at the top trigram, water in this case, as the background. And then the bottom trigram is the foundation of the little figure that is in the picture, and that is the mountain. So the mountain with the water as background. And he is also saying that when we have a Scorpio, that is connected to Pluto, that's connected to Mars. When we have Libra, that's connected to Saturn, it exalts in Libra, and it's also connected to Venus, which is the ruler. So that's also why he's saying that the 7th sign and house and the 8th sign and house are the numbers that are important here. And he's using these colors to create a kind of recommendation, a braid similar to what we did see before. So instead of speaking about it in a frequency band, like he actually also is doing here using Richard Rudd's words, he is creating a verb. Because when it comes to the book of changes, nothing is still. Everything is ever changing and evolving, right? So he likes to have a verb. So here the verb is to foresee or to anticipate. So the 39 hexagram is to foresee or anticipate. And why is that? It is to reassess your position. And then there is this inner hidden trigrams that we speak a lot about through the I Ching when we're looking at what's really there, and we are looking at the I Ching as an oracle of getting answers that we might not have as just tuning into ourselves, which I think we always do, but we can use the I Ching to foresee or to answer questions, we could say. So what does this mean? Well, in the inside of this hexagram, we have hidden trigrams. So if we don't look at the top one, we don't look at the bottom one, we look at this trigram here, and we look at this trigram here, we can see that's the water trigram and the fire trigram. The water trigram is about perception, and the fire trigram or Gemini is about different perspectives. So from the hidden trigrams, we also get a recommendation, and that is to look at different scenarios, to perceive Scorpio, water, different scenarios, fire, and Gemini. So for every single hexagram, we're going to have a recommendation. And this one for the 39 is to look for different scenarios. We'll speak more about what that has to do with liberation as well. So I also brought in today the Animal Totems and the I Ching by Brynja Magnusson. I'm going to read the I Ching here. So, obstruction describes a dangerous impasse, an abyss before one's feet, and a cliff face behind one's back. The hexagram prompts that this dilemma should be overcome and encourages one to join forces with friends and allies. Though this hexagram sets a scene of difficulty, it advises that instead of attempting to place blame on others, one must find the flaw within themselves that brought them to this predicament. This inner accountability can be the most useful tool for self-development and in fact reveals this adversity as being beneficial. And then also you see the coyote, and the coyote is like the trickster. And in a positive sense, the coyote has to do with surprises, playfulness, and humor, but it's also the other side of it, right? So on the other side, we have blunders, provocation, and backfire. So that is the little intro today with the 39. I have it in my ascendant. That is the 39.5 for me. And my north node is the 39.6. And I do feel like a lot of my life has been through this lens. When you have it in the nodes, that means that this is your environment from a human design perspective. It's part of your trajectory. And being the north node, this is what I'm walking towards in my life. And at the same time, because it's also my ascendant, it's not that I have to wait to my Uranus opposition to really get a grasp, but it's there all the time. When I was born, what was on the horizon, what's on the east in your natal chart, it was this 39. So I've been seeing it's been around me my whole entire life. And when we speak about the ascendant, that is our task, our homework in this life. There's like no way I'm not looking at it. It's right there when we're born, and it's going to be really, really, really part of life. I have come to see it more than anything as, again, like adversity or something beneficial. I know that I often come into people's life to shake something up, to stir something up, to stimulate something, to trigger something. And sometimes that leads to the relationship not even being able to continue, or like a breakdown, or what it says, like a backfire. And I have learned to trust the backfire. If that has to happen, it has to happen. And sometimes I warn people in the beginning when they think that, oh, this is so exciting, this is going to be the perfect, best collaboration or the best relationship ever. And I say, I believe so, but maybe not in the way that we think it's going to be, because I know that things are going to be triggered, things are going to come up, there's going to be immense potential for liberation. But that also takes that both people are able to really take responsibility for what's coming up, for their own part of it, and move through it and integrate what's there. When you're limited on the outside, for example, how does that allow you to create more freedom or liberation on the inside? And that goes back to this whole channel, right? The freedom and liberation that is inherent when it comes to the 55 and the 39 together. So where do you have those kind of situations in your life where it doesn't look that good, but if you go a little bit deeper, actually you can see that it gives you, if it's not even in a tangible sense on the outside, it allows you to find more space inside to be able to hold this thing without being in distress, without being in victimhood and all these things. So Michael,